Good morning. My name is Tracy Spinkadomes, and on behalf of First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, Delaware, I welcome you to our online worship service. First Unitarian is a welcoming congregation. Regardless of your spiritual beliefs, your political views, the color of your skin, how you identify, or whom you love, you are welcome here. We are honored that you have chosen to spend this time with us. If you are visiting us for the first time, we invite you to visit our website and sign up for our weekly electronic newsletter to stay informed about what is happening in our church community each week. This week, I am thrilled to be working with Kate Franta, a fellow worship associate and today's worship leader. Now, let us prepare our hearts and minds for worship.
Thank you, Kathy. Our call to worship today is from Patrick Murfin's Suddenly the Stars. Suddenly the stars, unseen since God knows when, explode across the Arctic night. No blank shelf of stratus bars them. No haze or mist obscures them. No scudding cirrus races to the wind to hide them. Even the fierce orange glow of pollution cannot obscure them. Once folk knew these stars, measured lifeblood by their glow, fixed on them for certainty against death and chaos, steered by their light where no markings showed the way, found their gods among them and sacrificed to them in sacred duty. But years have passed. These stars, unseen, unrecognized, nor even missed amid a world of roofs, electric lights, other things to do, other lives to lead, until this night when they come calling, and change everything.
Today's chalice lighting was written by Reverend Dr. Cynthia Landrum. For the wonder and inspiration we seek from sun and stars and all the lights of the heavens, we light this chalice. Please join me in speaking our mission aloud. First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, and transforms the world through loving action.
Good morning, First U friends. I'm happy to be here sharing our service with you today. This morning, I'd like to delve into what I call the aha moment, when awareness dawns, experience lines up, and we get that head thwack, of course, because everything suddenly makes sense. Well, everything as it pertains to the situation or topic in question. In order to explore this, I asked a couple friends to share their aha moments with us. Here is Leah Orchanik explaining hers.
I spend a lot of time with kids. I work with kids, and I have two of my own, who are 4 and 1. So the aha moment that came to mind when Kate asked me about doing this started with a quote about children. Some of you may know the quote, and I first saw it when I was walking through the hallway of the child care center at church about 2 years ago. The quote is, "The way we talk to our children becomes their inner voice," and it's from a woman named Peggy O'Mara. The message itself wasn't novel or revolutionary, and the words are simple, but it encapsulates so much in a single phrase, and it really struck me. I actually got out my phone and took a picture of it, and later decided I wanted to display a framed version in my office. As a pediatric psychologist, I know that both what and how we communicate can matter. But at the time I first read the quote, we only had our daughter Arlie, who was just 2 years old, and something about that phrase made me really think about how much influence one person can truly have on another. And I thought about the opportunity I have as her parent to help her learn to love herself and others, and to develop an inner voice that says, I can do this, and I will. Reading the quote was also an aha moment for me because it reminded me that it isn't just the times when we intend to have an impact, like if we're teaching a skill to a child or when I'm delivering a therapy intervention, but it's all those other times in between that they absorb what we say and do and model our actions, from how to handle making a mistake, and I make plenty of those as a parent, to how to love or how to disagree respectfully. Amid the different research-supported treatments that I use in my work and the parenting books I've read, I often return to this quote: the way we talk to our children becomes their inner voice. And it has become part of my own internal guide and has helped me be more reflective, less reactive, and hopefully a better parent.
Thank you, Leah, for reminding us how important our simple and everyday interactions are to everyone around us, especially the youngest among us. Let us now move into a time of quiet reflection. Gifted yoga teacher Clara Roberts-Oss leads a meditation from what she credits as the 3D Sutras. This meditation is adapted from Clara's words on her Practice with Clara website, used with her permission. So right where you are, make your body comfortable, prepared, which may look like placing your feet flat on the ground and lengthening your spine. Feel your breath going in and out of your body. Gently close your eyes and turn your attention inward. Now, imagine your body as a clump of vibrating particles. These particles are made from even smaller particles. Sinking deeper within, feel these tiny particles vibrating and dissolving into infinity, then condensing back again into form, continuously dissolving and reforming. Feeling this, knowing this, breathe gently with infinity dancing everywhere. Experience the substance of your body and the world as made up of these particles, and these particles go deeper into finer energy. Drift deeper into that awareness, feeling each particle condensing from infinity and dissolving again back into each gentle breath. Enjoy this infinite dance while we remain quiet together. into this infinite dancing space of particles where there is potential for healing, forgiveness, for realizations, and for love. Let us share the names of those we carry who might benefit from the strength of this circle, the names of those who might be carrying a heavy load right now. Feel free to use the chat box or say the names aloud where you are or in your hearts. May all whose names, spoken and unspoken, find peace and healing this day. These are the final thoughts of the great physicist Carlo Rovelli as he concludes his book, 7 Brief Lessons on Physics. It is part of our nature to love and to be honest. It is part of our nature to long to know more and to continue to learn. Our knowledge of the world continues to grow. There are frontiers where we are learning, and our desire for knowledge burns. They are in the most minute reaches of the fabric of space, at the origins of the cosmos, in the nature of time, in the phenomenon of black holes, and in the workings of our own thought processes. Here, on the edge of what we know, in contact with the ocean of the unknown, shines the mystery and the beauty of the world. And it's breathtaking. Our world is breathtaking. Often we think of vast landscapes, waterfalls, the cosmos, the mountains, or the stone creations of ancient civilizations as breathtaking. But tiny moments in our little large lives are just as breathtaking. These are the moments that realign us, remind us who we are, because it's easy to forget, and inspire us with hope. These are when we hold a new puppy or a kitten, when we capture the image of a flower unfolding, when we take the time to enjoy the sunrise. And as we move about our days, sometimes we are lucky enough to have a moment when, aha, something that was a mystery or in the dark is now revealed or in the light. Here is fellow UUer Mike Diebold sharing his aha moment.
Good morning. Some of you who know me know that I work in the pigment business, and my aha moment has to do with an equation we use in color science. We use a lot of equations in color science, and I use them all the time. And on almost all of the equations, I could tell you how the equation is derived, where it came from. I have a real understanding of it. But there's one equation that I realized I don't. It was a black box to me. And that kind of bothered me. And so for the next couple of weeks, anytime I had a few spare moments, I try to resolve this. Either I try to derive the equation on my own, or I'd look up on the internet to see if anybody derived it for me, or in books or in journal articles, and I didn't get anywhere. And at the end of this couple of weeks, I was so frustrated, I decided what I'd do is ask an expert, send an email to an expert asking how to derive this equation. And this was really an act of desperation because I don't personally know any color science experts. And I have a very poor track record of getting responses from people I don't know. And especially in this case, I was expecting it to have to be a very long, dense, detailed, technical response back, but it's going to take a lot of time to write. That's a lot to ask for somebody who doesn't even know you. At any rate, I found an expert. He was actually a professor at a college that one of our daughters went to, so I felt like I might have a little karma with him, and I wrote to him saying, here's the equation, here's the approach I'm taking, what am I doing wrong? And much to my shock, I got an email back from him within 5 minutes. So it clearly wasn't this really big, long, dense email that I was expecting. It's a very short email. In fact, it wasn't even a whole sentence long. It was a sentence fragment. The guy didn't use a verb. But as soon as I read that email, the words he chose were exactly perfect, in the perfect order. And as soon as I read them, I knew exactly what I was doing wrong. I was approaching this derivation exactly backwards. It was as if I came across a worm stuck halfway out of his hole, and I sent an email to a worm expert and said, how do I stuff the worm back in the hole? And the worm expert sends an email back and says, you don't stuff the worm back in, you pull the worm out. And when I read those few words in an instant, like a flash of lightning, I knew exactly what the resolution was. And I remember I was so shocked by it. I literally clenched my fist in victory, and I said out loud, aha, now I know everything. And I know I don't really know everything, but at the time it really seemed like I did, and that felt great. So that's my aha moment.
Thanks, Mike. Now, after Mike recorded his piece, John Claney, our AV coordinator, and I were going back and forth on emails, and we both wondered, what on earth was in that brief email from Mike's mentor? And I asked Mike, and he kindly explained it in a way I could understand. He said, imagine you want a lit up blue wall. You can have a blue wall and shine a white light on it, which is how he was trying to work his problem. Or you could flip it around and have a white wall and shine a blue light on it. And as soon as he understood to approach his work problem from the other direction, everything made sense. What a great reminder for all of us that we can change the wall or we can change the light. Often there are multiple moving parts. What I like about these two very different stories, Leah's and Mike's, is that Mike was working, struggling, immersed, but he had the presence of mind to ask for help. And I don't always remember to do that. How often do we remember to ask for help? That receptivity set him up for the revelation, the solution. Leah, however, she wasn't working or struggling. She was just walking along the hallway when her eyes rested upon the sign. It was her life and her work experience, culminating from years of training, patient care, plus the wonder of being a parent, that primed her to receive this targeted message, that how we talk to our kids becomes their inner voice. She received this message in an unexpected place, and that might be why it grabbed her attention initially. To her credit, Leah kept mulling it over, kept working it, revisiting the concept until she figured out how to incorporate the message into her practice and her life. That's an example of an aha seed that's planted. Leah took the time and loving energy to nurture and feed it so that it could grow strong in her garden of life. My aha that I want to share with you is a bit of a longer story, but it's entirely different from the other two we've already heard. Mine is one of reconciliation and acceptance. And it's theological, so I begin this with the disclaimer that this is my path and that no two people's paths are the same. This is the tale of how I got answers that worked for me. I was raised in the Lutheran church. We attended every week, services, Sunday school. I was baptized, and my parents took very seriously their commitment to educating me in the Christian faith. I loved going to church. I loved Sunday school. I loved the Lenten Wednesday dinners and all the activities that the community itself generated. Now, in Buddhist philosophy, to which I gravitate now, there are 3 jewels: the Buddha, who lived about 500 years before the Common Era, the Dharma, which are the teachings from the Buddha, and the Sangha, which is the community. Growing up in the Lutheran Church, I had a similar trifecta: God, the teachings, and the community. So I lacked nothing from that equation of the 3 jewels. But I had questions. I had pesky questions that no one could answer. Despite staying in the church community into adulthood, these questions started to overtake my Christian faith. Now, I love that some people find comfort and strength and community in the structure of an organized, creed-based faith, but the structure of it for me was not lining up with what I felt in my heart to be true. So what was true to me was not fitting the Christian model, and I think this was my birth as a Unitarian Universalist, unbeknownst to me. So at 28, I left the Christian church and struck out on my own, searching. I explored Buddhism, but I knew I was missing the community piece. I studied shamanism, other earth-based practices, Hinduism, Judaism, Islam. I practiced meditation. I took retreats, and it felt wonderful learning about all the other religions out there. But if someone mentioned Jesus, I felt the enclosed box of Christianity stifling me in an instant. I avoided the topic of Jesus and basically felt like my birth religion had failed me. Has something from your childhood ever disappointed you when you tried to connect with it as an adult? What, if anything, have you explored to ease that discomfort or to address it? So I kept reading. I attended courses, and they exposed me to different ideas in philosophy. And I started reading about many sciences, including quantum physics, for lay people, not the actual text with equations. And I was quite taken by the theory that everything is made up of the same stuff, that most of what we see is just empty space. Whew. Bear with me, I'm going to try and explain. We can reduce all of what we see and do not see as made up of atoms. Atoms of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the air we breathe, atoms that make up our cells, that make up our tissues, that make up our organs, that make up our bodies. These are all submicroscopic packets called atoms. Now, a few moments ago, we had that reading from Carlo Rovelli that linked black holes to the burning desire for knowledge, to the passing of time, to the infinitely tiny particles that make up the fabric of our universe. As Rovelli explains Max Planck's theory that the quanta, that's where quantum mechanics derives its name, the quanta are packets or lumps of energy. Even Einstein was on board with part of this theory because he said that light is comprised of photons, which are tiny packets of energy. All of chemistry evolves from these packets. Think periodic table of the elements. Remember counting how many electrons and bonds there were in each atom and what gave you each different element? Well, the theory goes that these electrons jump from one interaction to another, hence the phrase quantum leap. But that in between, the electrons do not exist in any place at all. What? How can something exist at times? Exist, not exist, and then exist again. No object, this is a quote, no object has a definite position unless it's colliding with something else. That's Rovelli again. Well, that caught my ear a bit because it sounds a bit like some Unitarian Universalists that I know and love. I'll say it again. No object has a definite position unless it is colliding with something else. Science tells us that these collisions are mostly random, not orchestrated, and the math of probability helps us determine what is more likely or less likely to happen. So, atoms make up everything, and they are made of protons, neutrons, quarks, and electrons, and not much else. That is everything we see. So imagine you have a set of Legos. Yeah, Legos. They come with 100 pieces, but really it's just 8 to 10 different shapes. But what potential we have with Legos! Look at these. This is Legoland. These are amazing creations. All different, but you can see they are all Legos. Look at that. What makes them different is how they interlock, how they collide with each other, as per the vision of the human architect. Our world is not made up of things. Our world is made of happenings, of interactions, of collisions, of, quote, a continuous restless swarming, a continuous coming to light and disappearance of ephemeral entities, says Rovelli. I hope you are still with me. We are almost there. Taking the quantum mechanics theory one step further is the standard model theory of particles. That explains these particles, these packets of energy, constantly vibrate and change, moving in and through space. Sometimes they exist, sometimes they move out of existence, but they provide limitless combinations which can lead to a bird or a waterfall or mysterious stoneworks of previous civilizations or a loaf of bread or a glass of wine. I like this theory. It helps take the supernatural out of some of the spiritual teachings to which I gravitated. It's not an auric field, an aura around a person. It's their electromagnetic field, like the field of an atom that extends beyond the physical body. Spontaneous remission of disease is not necessarily a miracle, but may be explained by a less likely set of collisions of the electrons in a person's body that resulted in the disappearance of the disease. Now that's interesting. Are you still with me? We're still not at the aha yet. It's coming. So one Monday morning, I was at the gym on the elliptical. And if you've ever been on an elliptical machine, you know it's very, I'll call it meditative. Some people might call it repetitive. I really wasn't thinking about anything when, pop, right in my head, I saw the image of the Last Supper. This is one of the most revered and troublesome rituals in the Christian church. This is the ceremony where Jesus breaks bread with his disciples, his 12 most trusted. And he says, "When you eat this bread, you are eating my body." Then he raises his wine and says, "When you drink this wine, you are drinking my blood." This is one of the great mysteries and celebrations of the Christian church. It is reenacted during services as communion and considered a sacrament. However, to an outsider or to some who are questioning, this can be a problematic ritual Did the bread and wine change? Is it symbolic? Even different Christian denominations argue about the details of this. It is called the Last Supper because after that, the Roman guards took Jesus into custody and then he was subsequently executed. So you can imagine how surprised I was with all of my aversion to Jesus topics that the image of the Last Supper dropped into my head while I was exercising. But there was Jesus. And I was overcome with appreciation. I gasped and I proclaimed, "Aha! Jesus was a quantum physicist." Of course, I thought, that entire ritual upon which so much of Christianity is based and has been ritualized for centuries, which all seemed so misunderstood to me and by me for years. To me, it made perfect sense. For me, Jesus was not speaking of sacrificing himself or starting a religion, but he was talking about how any one of us at any time, as often as we even eat or drink, can access the stream of consciousness to initiate change, or the greater than, or as I say, the divine. Was he consciously starting a religion? Or was he just teaching us about our world? Now, for you, this aha might not be your cup of tea, but that's not really relevant. What matters is that as soon as I could join my historical religious training with my adult spiritual studies, everything shifted. I had no more unsettled sense. I didn't have to avoid talk about Jesus with my friends or acquaintances who wanted to speak about him. My tied tongue was released, so to speak, and the floodgates opened. The love and appreciation that I felt for the teachings of other traditions was very simple. I missed feeling the love of Christianity that I had experienced as a child from the inside. And now it had returned, but I was happily observing it from the outside. This allowed me to try a church. This church. A decade after this aha, I walked into First Unitarian and smiled. I felt the return of the Sangha, the community, that I had missed so terribly for the 14 or so years before I found Unitarian Universalism. The 3 jewels of Buddhism were shining bright in my heart, all possible because I had kept searching, I had stayed true to what my path was, and I had a loving, patient teachers to guide me. I felt peace and equanimity, and that was the result of the aha moment, one brief and satisfying point in time made possible by the search for truth, the search for meaning, which is one of our Unitarian Universalist principles. Big and little aha moments are available to us. We just have to be open to listening for them to drop in. How many years had I missed cues? Had I not listened and simply perpetuated my struggle? I had clung to my resistance instead of opening up in a loving and curious way. I want to keep having aha moments as my life progresses. We have to keep expanding like the universe so we don't get frozen or stuck. My aunt and uncle always say they're getting the newest technological gadgets because they don't want to be frozen out of technological advancement. It's true, if we resist basically because something is new or foreign to us, we run too great a risk of being left behind. I want to continue to make a contribution, so I need to keep delving into whatever my 9-year-old is telling me is a basic technological skill. I benefit from my aunt and uncle's wisdom that crystallized the two options for me of either staying relevant or becoming obsolete. I will try to stop resisting and remain lovingly curious. So where are your aha moments? They can be anywhere. They don't have to be about theology or philosophy, as you have seen. They can relate to parenting, relationships, work, anything, even your relationship with yourself. We are all teachers. We are all students. Let us share with one another and be open to learning from each other. And may we lovingly and gracefully coexist with those whose aha moments differ from our own. I hope.
What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, oh my soul? What wondrous love is this, oh my soul? What wondrous love is this that brings my heart such bliss and takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul. When I was sinking down, sinking down, sinking down. When I was sinking down, sinking down. When I was sinking down, beneath my sorrow's ground, friends to me gathered round. Oh my soul, oh my soul. Friends to me gathered round. Oh my soul. To love and to all friends I will sing, I will sing. To love and to all friends I will sing. To love and to all friends who pain and sorrows mend, with thanks unto the end I will sing, I will sing. With thanks unto the end I will sing.
So I have to give a bit of a disclaimer because this morning when Kate and I got together, we realized a certain overlap in our aha moments. And I need to assure you that my aha moment about which I'm going to speak is my personal aha moment and is highly coincidental in some aspects. Aha moments come in many forms. My spiritual aha moment happened in my late teens. I was raised in the Lutheran Church. I faithfully attended Sunday school and I transitioned into catechetical classes. But as I was going through my catechetical classes, I started to internally question what I was being taught and what I was learning. I completed the classes and I got confirmed, continued to attend church. And the more I attended church services, the more I realized how little what was being said resonated with what I believed deep inside. So I stopped going to church. A few years passed, and I serendipitously came across a book by Amber Kay called True Magic, A Beginner's Guide. There was my aha moment reading that. It was the first time I had read anything about Wiccan, pagan spiritualities, earth-based spirituality. And I was elated to finally have words to associate with my beliefs. I felt validated to know that others out there held similar beliefs. I had never met any, but they were there. So what does that have to do with stewardship, you may be asking? Well, it was through the pagan community in Connecticut that I found and learned about the UU Church, and I loved its open-mindedness. Fast forward many years, when Keith and I were discussing churches to raise our children in, I immediately gravitated to the UU Church. And I specifically like the approach we use in our religious exploration program, where our children are given a framework and knowledge which they can then use to craft their own spirituality. When I support our church, I know I am supporting the programs we offer to our youth, both as Sunday CYRE and other programs such as OWL. These programs and more are supported by our gifts to the church. On a Sunday morning, there are 3 ways you can provide your offering to the church. You can mail a check to the office, you can donate online via our website, or you can use your smart device and give through the Give Plus app. When you do so, please indicate that it is for Sunday morning offering. At this time, please join me in dedicating our offering to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action. We dedicate our lives and these, our offerings.
Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Over my head, I hear singing in the air. Over my head, I hear singing in the air. Over my head, I hear singing in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Over my head, I see trouble in the air. Over my head, I see trouble in the air. Over my head, I see trouble in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Over my head, I feel gladness in the air. Over my head, I feel gladness in the air. Over my head, I feel gladness in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Over my head, I see angels in the air. Over my head, I see angels in the air. Over my head, I see angels in the air. There must be a God somewhere.
So what do these aha moments have in common? Leah was already a child psychologist when she happened to look up at the wall and see the words about a child's inner voice. She had already been on a path of study, of deepening her understanding. Mike was struggling with a challenge at work, and he reached out for help. Tracy just hadn't been exposed to what she really needed to find. I had been seeking and deepening my understanding of spiritual practice, theology, and science, and their intricate dance that has always intrigued me. Each of us has a history of striving, of searching, and each of us had a quiet moment in which the nugget of wisdom could drop in. Mike's was more obvious since he had the presence and resources to get help. He was clearly receptive. But Leah, Tracy, and I were going about our days, some of the legwork done, letting the teachings simmer and fuse, when we received our ahas seemingly out of the blue. But they weren't really out of the blue. If you are searching, remember to include breathing room for all of the experiences of your story to marinate. If you see someone searching, how can you offer them a little breathing room, a little space? I thank you for listening today. Thanks to Leah and Mike for pitching in and sharing.
As we close our service, we want to extend the warmest of welcomes to our minister, Reverend Dr. Lawrence Piers. Reverend Larry officially starts his 2-year tenure with us today, and he is the perfect choice to help us heal our hurts and navigate a new search for a settled minister.
Reverend Larry, we look forward to working with you and learning from you and to sharing with you. Thank you for saying yes to First You. See you soon.
Though we extinguish this chalice, may its light shine on in each of us, sparking our own discoveries and illuminating our paths forward to our next aha moment.